You say you have big dreams, but tell me, what do your mornings look like? It's a quiet question, but it reveals everything. Because we don't rise to the level of our goals, we fall to the level of our habits. Not once, not sometimes, but always. Goals are beautiful. They give us something to aim at, but they don't build the bridge to get there. That bridge is made of habits. Small, silent choices, stacked one on top of another, until they carry the weight of the life you're trying to create. We all want transformation, but transformation doesn't shout. It whispers. It asks, will you show up again today? Not in a grand gesture, but in that ordinary moment when no one's watching. Because the truth is, your future is not shaped in the spotlight. It's shaped in the shadows, where you choose consistency over comfort, discipline over distraction, movement over motivation. And if you look closely, life is always asking, are you becoming the person who does what your goals require? Or are you just hoping the destination will carry you without the journey? We all think we need more motivation, but what we really need is a rhythm, something steady, something we return to, like the rising sun, not always exciting, but always enough. I've learned this the slow way, not from books, not from slogan, but from watching my own life slip through my fingers every time I waited for the right moment to change. The truth, the right moment never felt right. It usually came dressed as something small, a decision I could easily ignore, a task I could easily delay. But underneath that small thing was the person I was becoming. Habits aren't boring, they're becoming. The way you brush your teeth, the way you speak to yourself, the way you begin your day, they are not just routines. They are rehearsed. They are the script of who you're practicing to be. And here's the part we don't like to admit. We're always practicing something. The question is what? Are you practicing self-respect or self-neglect? Are you practicing excuses or effort? Are you practicing who you wish to be or who you used to be? This is not about perfection. It's about alignment. Making sure your actions don't betray your aspirations. Because your dreams are waiting, not to see what you'll wish, but what you'll repeat. So if you want a different life, don't just set a bigger goal, build a better day. Because it's the day that builds the life. Start where you are. Pick one habit that honors your future. Then return to it, again and again, until it becomes who you are. That's how we rise. Not all at once, but step by step, thought by thought, habit by habit, into the life we said we wanted. And maybe that's the most honest kind of success there is. When the person you're becoming finally matches the dreams you once only spoke of. Every gardener knows the truth. Seeds don't care about your dreams. They care about the soil you place them in. You can hold in your hand the seeds of the most beautiful future, dreams of success, peace, health, fulfillment. You can water them with hope, shine sunlight on them with vision boards and declarations. But if the soil is dry, brittle, or choked with weeds, the seed won't stand a chance. Our habits are that soil, and every day, whether we know it or not, we're tending to them. It's easy to fall in love with the goal, to write it down, to picture it, to imagine the applause, the transformation, the before and after moment. But goals, like seeds, are fragile things. They need nourishment, structure, patience. They don't bloom just because we wish them to. They grow because something beneath the surface makes space for them to take root. So let me ask you, what does the soil of your life look like right now? Are you feeding your dreams with steady attention, or starving them with distraction? Are your daily rituals softening the ground, or hardening it with neglect? We often think success is about drive, about hunger, about ambition, but all of those are useless if the environment we build doesn't support growth. Habits by their nature seem small, ordinary, almost forgettable. Waking up on time, drinking water, writing for 10 minutes, turning off the phone an hour before bed. These things don't look like transformation, but they are transformation, slow, subtle, foundational, because soil doesn't shout. It just quietly decides whether something will live or wither. There are people who plant dreams year after year, only to see them die in the same way, not because the dream was wrong, but because the habits weren't right. They blame fate, timing, motivation. But the problem was always underground. You want to write a book? The goal is the seed. Writing 300 words a day, that's the soil. You want a strong body? The goal is the seed. Daily movement, intentional eating, and good sleep, that's the soil. You want peace of mind? The goal is the seed. Limiting screen time, journaling, practicing stillness, that's the soil. Without these quiet rituals, your goals become decorations, not destinations. And it's not your fault if no one taught you this. Most of us were raised to chase the outcome, not to care for the ground beneath it. But now that you know, you can begin different. Start by looking at your day like a field. What are you planting? What are you watering? What weeds are you allowing to grow because they're comfortable? Weeds often look like habits too. The 15-minute scroll that becomes an hour. The second guess that becomes paralysis. The delay that disguises itself as planning. They're all part of the landscape. But you get to choose what stays. So don't worry if your goals seem far off. Don't panic if they feel too big. Just kneel down, hands in the earth of your life, and tend to what you can touch today. One small nourishing habit, then another, then another. Over time that soil becomes rich, ready, and when it's ready, the seed knows what to do. You don't need to force growth. You need to make space for it. Because goals don't bloom in hope alone. They bloom in the daily quiet of well-tended ground. And when your habits align with your hopes, something beautiful begins to grow, something not just dreamed of but earned. Motivation has a voice that's easy to love. It's loud, exciting, it makes promise. It stirs your chest, fills your head with visions, and makes you feel like this time, everything will change. But then it fades. It always does. Because motivation is a visitor. Welcome, yes, but unpredictable. It shows up when the sun is shining, and the mood is right. But what happens when the morning is gray, when the wind is sharp, and the path feels longer than expected? That's when discipline whispers. And most people never learn to hear that whisper. They've trained their lives around the high of momentum, not the humility of movement. But the truth is, every life worth building, every dream worth living, demands loyalty far beyond what motivation can offer. Discipline is not glamorous. It doesn't get applause. It doesn't make you feel invincible. But it shows up, even when you don't want. It's the hand on your shoulder when you'd rather quit. It's the quiet step you take when your feelings don't cooperate. It's the choice to do the thing again. Not because it's exciting, but because it matters. And that is real strength. See, motivation asks, how do I feel today? Discipline says, this is who I am no matter how I feel. That difference changes lives. Because if your dreams depend on how inspired you are, they will forever be at the mercy of your emotion. But if they're anchored in discipline, in commitment, in rhythm, they begin to take root, even in the dry seasons. And yes, there will be dry seasons. Days when the progress is invisible. Days when your efforts feel wasted. Days when everything in you says, not today. But discipline doesn't flinch. It doesn't argue with your resistance. It simply acts. It's like water carving through stone, not with force, but with consistency. It doesn't need permission to keep going. And over time, that quiet loyalty shapes a life far more powerful than momentary bursts of inspiration ever could. Ask anyone who's mastered their craft, an artist, a teacher, an athlete, a leader, and they'll all tell you, motivation may have started the fire, but discipline kept it burning. The world doesn't need more inspired moments. It needs more people who show up when it's hard. So if you're waiting for the perfect mindset, the ideal energy, the rush of motivation to strike again, pause, breathe, look deeper. What if you stopped chasing feeling and started choosing faithfulness? Not the kind of faithfulness that screams, but the kind that moves silently through the days, choosing the workout, choosing the practice, choosing the work, choosing the truth, again and again. That is loyalty, that is maturity, that is power, and slowly, something shifts. You stop asking, will I feel like it today? And you start becoming the kind of person who does it anyway. That's when the needle moves. That's when real change begins. That's when you become trustworthy to your own future. Because here's the quiet truth. Motivation will flirt with your dreams. Discipline will marry them. One is thrilling, the other is devoted. So choose devotion, not because it's easy, but because because in the end, the life you want won't be built by what excites you. It will be built by what you return to when no one is watching. Your future isn't built in a day. It's built in 1,000 invisible moments that no one claps for. You make your coffee a little earlier. You write a sentence instead of just thinking about writing. You take the stairs instead of the elevator. You sit in silence for 5 minutes instead of reaching for noise. Small things, quiet things, things no one will ever notice. But the future always notices. We often wait for big moments to define us. The job offer, the breakthrough, the transformation that turns heads. But life doesn't work like that. It's far more subtle, far more honest. Life watches the small things, because small things are the most honest. Every choice you make is a vote, not for a political party, but for the kind of life you want to live, the kind of person you are becoming. And the ballot is cast not once but dozens of times a day. You vote when you get out of bed without snoozing. You vote when you stretch your hand toward a book instead of a screen. You vote when you speak gently to someone who can't repay you. You vote when you show up even though it would be easier not to. And the more you cast the same kind of vote, the more that identity begins to stick. It's easy to underestimate this. To believe change needs to feel massive or painful or loud. But real change doesn't announce itself. It creeps in through repetition. That's the beauty of a habit. It doesn't demand that you be great. It simply asks that you be consistent. Think about it. One workout won't transform your body. One page won't write your novel. One quiet moment won't bring peace. But when these acts are repeated, day after day, they begin to gather weight, and soon they become who you are. Because the truth is, we don't rise to our intentions. We fall to our systems, to the rhythm of our day, to the things we do when we're not thinking. That's who we are becoming. So let me ask, what are you voting for? When you reach for your phone first thing in the morning, what kind of life are you affirming? When you skip the thing you said mattered, what future are you silently saying no to? This isn't about guilt. This is about awareness. It's not that you must live perfectly. No one does. But if you start to see your habits as votes, you'll begin to realize how powerful you already are. You don't need to change your whole life overnight. You just need to cast better votes. One meal, one walk, one honest conversation, one deep breath. And yes, some days you'll vote for the wrong future. That's okay. Missing one vote doesn't undo the election. What matters is the pattern you're building. Because your life is not one decision, it's a pattern of decisions, a pattern that becomes a path that becomes a story, and you, quietly and consistently, are writing it every day. So forget trying to impress the world with dramatic gestures. Instead, become loyal to the little things that align with your deeper values. Keep showing up, keep casting votes. Because every time you do, you're not just doing a thing, you're becoming someone. And slowly, without hype, your life becomes the outcome of all those tiny intentional choices. One small habit at a time, your future is being shaped, not someday but right now. Failure. It's a word that weighs heavily. It stings, it echoes, it makes us shrink inward, question everything and wonder if we're just not cut out for this. But maybe, just maybe, what we call failure is something else entirely. Maybe you're not failing. Maybe you're rehearsing. Because the truth is, no one arrives fully formed. No one wakes up with mastery, grace, or discipline baked in. We're all stumbling forward, learning our lines, finding our rhythm. The world is quick to judge results. But growth happens in repetition. Rehearsal is where we make the mistakes we need to make, where we stretch, falter, try again, where we show up not because we've figured it out, but because we're willing to. Think of an actor on a stage. In rehearsal, the lines are clumsy, the timing is off, the movements feel forced, but no one says you're failing. They say, keep going, you're getting it. Why should life be any different? When you try to change a habit, start a business, improve your relationships, or find your voice. The first attempts won't be smooth. They're not supposed to be. You're rehearsing, but here's the deeper question. What are you rehearsing for? Because we're always rehearsing something. The way you react to stress is a rehearsal. The way you speak to yourself is a rehearsal. The way you spend your quiet moments is a rehearsal. You're practicing responses, behaviors, beliefs, and those practices become patterns. Those patterns become your life. So if you've been repeating something that doesn't serve you, don't just call it a mistake. Ask, what script have I been rehearsing, and is it time to rewrite it? The beautiful part is this: you can change the script. You can choose a new role. You can rehearse peace instead of panic, focus instead of distraction, effort instead of excuses. And just like any good rehearsal, you won't get it right the first time. But if you keep showing up, the lines begin to feel natural, the movements align, the performance becomes real, not because of perfection, but because of repetition. And yet so many people quit before the performance ever begins. They try a few times, stumble, and decide they're broken. But what if that stumble was just your body learning? What if it wasn't a sign to stop, but a signal to stay? Growth is not an event. It's a rehearsal room, one where the lights flicker, the voice cracks, the steps misalign, but also one where breakthroughs happen quietly, and confidence is built one awkward attempt at a time. You're not failing. You're rehearsing for the life you've never lived before. It's okay if you don't feel ready. Every time you rise after falling, adjust the angle, soften your approach, and try again. You are rehearsing something better, something braver, something more you. And if it takes longer than you expected, so be it. Good performances aren't rushed. They're refined. So take the pressure off. Give yourself the space to stumble without shame. And instead of asking, why am I not there yet? Ask, what am I rehearsing now? Because your life is not a test. It's a stage being slowly prepared. And you, with your effort, your grace, your stubborn hope, are not failing. You're just not finished. Inspiration feels good. It rushes in, like a warm wind, stirs your chest, and makes you feel like anything is possible. In that moment, you feel clear, focused, alive. But then the moment passes, and you're left with the same morning, the same resistance, the same choice. Because the truth is, identity isn't born in inspiration, it's built in repetition. Who you are is not defined by what excites you, it's defined by what you return to, again and again, when no one is clapping, when no one is watching, when no one else cares but you. We live in a world obsessed with the highlight, with the breakthrough, with the turning point. But real life is made of smaller, quieter scenes. The decision to make your bed, to finish what you started, to speak gently, to pause before reacting, to keep your word, especially when it's only to yourself. These aren't dramatic acts, but they are identity-shaping ones. You see, your identity is not some grand declaration. It's the echo of your habits, and those echoes accumulate over time. Every time you make a choice, you're not just getting something done, you're becoming someone. Every decision is a small mirror. You might not see the reflection clearly at first, but over time the pattern reveals the person. This is where many people get stuck. They confuse moments of motivation with actual transformation. They think, because I felt inspired, I must have changed. But feeling inspired isn't the same as becoming different. Becoming different takes practice, and practice means doing it, even when you don't feel like it. That's the hard part, but also the holy part. Because when you keep showing up without applause, without the rush of motivation, something sacred happens. Your choices begin to form your character, not for show, not for status, but for strength. And eventually, quietly, those choices start to change what you believe about yourself. You're no longer someone who tries to be disciplined. You are disciplined. You're no longer someone who wants to be kind. You are kind. And you didn't get there through inspiration. You got there through integrity, through the days when you didn't feel like it, but did it anyway, through the mornings when it would have been easier to scroll but you read, through the nights when it would have been easier to give in, but you kept your promise. That's where identity is forged, not in the big moments, but in the small ones, repeated with care, with conviction, with heart. So if you're feeling lost, don't wait for another burst of motivation. Look at your day, look at your rhythm, look at the simple acts you return to. That's your real biography. That's the version of you that's being written in real time. And the good news, you can change the story, not by rewriting the ending, but by changing the sentence you're living now, not by aiming for drama, but by choosing consistency, even when it's boring, even when it's slow. Because the slow way is the deep way, and depth is what identity needs. So don't be discouraged by the quiet work. Lean into it, because every choice is shaping something, and over time the person you become won't be the one you imagined in a rush of inspiration. It will be the one you sculpted, gently, daily, deliberately, in the unseen hours of your life. We live in a world that worships intensity, the big gesture, the dramatic overhaul, the life-changing moment. People love the idea of transformation, as long as it feels fast and loud. But life doesn't really change in explosions. It changes in whispers. Real change doesn't begin with a vow to do everything better. It begins with one quiet question. Am I being honest with myself in the little things? Because while intensity comes and goes like a storm, integrity stays. And integrity isn't about being flawless. It's about being aligned. It's about closing the gap between what you say and what you do, especially when no one is watching. If you say health matters, does your daily rhythm reflect that? If you say you want peace, do your habits allow room for stillness? If you say you want purpose, do you spend time on what actually matters to you? That's the kind of honesty that shifts a life, not the kind you post about, the kind you quietly live by. Intensity burns hot, then fades. It's the fire you feel after hearing an inspiring talk, after setting a big goal, after making a New Year's resolution. But intensity is unreliable. It's driven by emotion, and emotion, as we know, is a visitor. Integrity, on the other hand, is a companion. It walks with you when the feelings fade. It helps you keep the promise you made to yourself, not because it's convenient, but because it's who you are. And it starts small. The integrity to finish what you start, to wake up when you said you would, to speak truthfully, even if it's uncomfortable, to take care of the things no one else sees. These aren't flashy acts. They don't come with applause, but they build something unshakable inside you: self-trust. And that, more than anything else, is what changes your life. Because when you trust yourself, deeply, honestly, quietly, you stop chasing quick fixes. You stop abandoning yourself for the sake of feeling good in the moment. You begin to move from a place of inner strength instead of external pressure. That's where real momentum comes from. Not from hype, but from harmony, from knowing that your outer life is beginning to reflect your inner truth, even if it's happening slowly, even if no one else sees it yet. So if you want to change your life, stop asking, how hard can I push to? Ask instead, how true can I be today, even in something small? Because the little things aren't little, they are seeds. And when planted with integrity, they grow roots, deep ones. It's better to do something small every day, with honesty, than to do something huge once and never return. Intensity might move the needle fast, but integrity moves it forever. So look at your life gently. Where can you be more aligned, not more intense, more true? Start there, stay there, and let the quiet loyalty of your choices carry you forward. Because in the end, change that lasts is never about how loud you were on day one. It's about how honest you were every day after.